ATL's Homicide is the highest rated show on TV1. Now, David Quinn and Vince Velazquez of the Atlanta Police Department are back for season 3 as they disclose firsthand accounts of real-life murder investigations in Atlanta. Say hello to my guests today, David and Vince. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today on Hollywood Live. We've got two of the top detectives in the country. You know them, you love them. They are from ATL Homicide. Please say hello to David Quinn and Vince Velazquez. How are you guys?
What's happening? What's happening, good people?
Oh, good. Well, first of all, congratulations. Season 3 is coming back. This is, I think, the most popular show on TV1. That seems to be what the case is.
I think it is. And
numbers show that. What is it that has made this show, other than the two of you? Because I got to tell you, it's like an interesting combo, but the two of you are such in sync, and you look good on camera, and you know you just kind of bring this thing that you just sort of conjured up together. But what is it in your minds that has made this show so popular and so enduring?
Well, yeah, I'll say this. I think we bring something to the table, but the production value of this show and the story writing, the way that the network and the production company has put this together, we're not that creative. David and I are technical. We know how to solve homicides, and we know how to talk to people. TV1 and our production company, that's where the magic comes in. That's where they put this crazy case together and bring the viewers along with us. And I think that's what makes this show so successful, is that when you're watching this, and if you haven't seen our show yet and you're watching for the first time on Monday, you're gonna be at the edge of your seat, because you're gonna feel like you are in the car with us. You're sitting here handing us a pad of paper to write notes down and telling us to look for clues, because that's how the show is produced that way, to make the viewer feel like they're with us, because you're not gonna know who did it to the end of the episode.
Yeah.
That's what's great about it.
Yeah, I you know what? I absolutely agree with you, Vince. I was thinking about that, watching it over the years. I'm like, the way they produce this is really quite unique for this type of show. Because you almost don't know if this is like an episodic, or is it reality? The kind of borders there. You're not really sure. I mean, we know that it is a reality show, but it really does get that border. David, I've got to ask, how did you guys first get together, though? Just quickly.
It's crazy. So, I'd been on about 15 years when I made Detective. The same day I make Detective, my brother from another mother, Vince, he makes Detective, and they slap us both in the homicide unit, which was unprecedented. And that's just not something they did. Usually cut your teeth in a more generalized detective area. They sent us straight to the murder division, basically. And for some reason, when we saw each other first day in Homicide, we all these old brothers, these old cats, near retirement. Funny thing is, we're the old cats now. We just started gelling and meshing. I mean, it was like mixing Kool-Aid and sugar. We were like on our way. We hit the street. I'd been on the street embedded for years. Vince had actually been out in the world. I'd been a cop since 2 years after high school. We became one that first day, and it rocked and rolled like that for the next 19 years.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, that chemistry between the two of you. And you do approach it almost like brothers, even though, you know what I mean? You've got that look. So it's great. I mean, you do a great job. And it's interesting about this genre, because we've all grown up on cop shows of some sort or another. TV was kind of made with those shows in mind, if you go back even to the Westerns and all of that. But this whole idea of focusing on really these sometimes horrific crimes, what is it about America that we can't get enough of this?
And that's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. We look at it from a different lens, because we have a purpose. I don't watch cop shows, and honestly, I never did, even before I was a cop. It just doesn't interest me. But there's no doubt true crime is very popular in this country. And the irony in this is that people know that, detectives figure out what the average person cannot, because that's not their job. So who stole your car, who assaulted you, and for us, ultimately, who the murderer is. And I think people, generally like puzzles. They want to see how this unfolds. And I think, and listen, I'm definitely a positive person. And I think people want to see a positive outcome. They want to see justice. So I tend to believe it's popular because at the end of the day, they want to see somebody pay for a crime, especially a homicide, that somebody took someone's life. They want to see justice for that family. So I think, and again, if we told you who did it in the first 5 minutes, you wouldn't watch the rest of the show. So I got to give credit back to, our network and our production company for making it interesting to where you feel like you're part of the process of trying to figure it out.
Do you ever see any of these people afterwards say, okay, this is season 3 of this incarnation of the show, but what happens to these people on the show? Do they become popular in their own right just because they've been on your show? Are they okay? Are they mentally okay after going through all of this?
Are you talking about the actors? Because
yeah.
Okay, I got a funny story. We had an episode in season 1, and I go out to meet some friends one day. And this is the case of Shaquilla Witherspoon, and I could say is a victim in our first season. And unfortunately, her husband killed her. His name was Roy McKinney. And the actor that played him, I'm literally walking into this restaurant, and I look over, and I'm like, what do I know this guy from? And it's the actor that played Roy McKinney in this episode. And I figured it out, and I'm like, yo, man, I know you. And then we just sat there, and it was just like, to answer your question, and Dave, I'll let him take a little bit further. They step into a role. They don't feel. I think the only people that really feel on an episode of our show of what a little bit of what we may have felt or went through is obviously David and myself. If we have a family member on our show, and sometimes you'll see that a real family member giving an opinion, and then the actors, because the actors have to get into our heads and ask us a lot of questions and understand who we are, and they too feel some of the grief that we've had. They take that a little bit further, because I know you got a little experience with that.
These young people, these young brothers and sisters that are depicted on the show, I have seen them in so many. I'm sitting there watching commercials on TV. These are hard-working actors. Mm-hmm. I was just watching the Regina King project one night in Miami, and I saw one of the guys play one of our killers on the stage with Malcolm X the other. So they're getting it in, and we love that, because we're humbled that someone would be part of a project where we give all glory to the families of our victims left behind. For the TV One to take our true life stories, our diaries, and actually, put them to music, so to speak, is a beautiful thing, because again, we want to always show honor, and we always want to show favor to the families left behind, because a lot of times, and you'll find in season 1, a lot of family members helped solve some of these murders because we always gave tremendous transparency on the course of the investigation.
Speaking of family members, David, I know that your son was shot recently. Thank God, it was okay. But coming off of this show, I mean, I don't know the circumstances around it, but could you tell us a little bit about what happened and how he's doing?
So October 18th, I'm at home on a Sunday night. My son, who had recently returned from the military, he was a paratrooper jumping out of planes overseas for the United States Army. He just went out to meet with some old friends from high school. As he's going back to his car, he is shot 3 times and robbed for $200. One of the bullets hit him right in the back, in the spine, and it stopped just before it went to an area that would either killed him or left him paralyzed. He's still recuperating now. But what I want to say about that night was, as I arrived on scene, everyone behind the yellow tape, was screaming, "Here comes ATL Homicide. They're going to get whoever it was." What's interesting about this case was, me and Vin are very well known in Atlanta. Every cop knows who we are. I got horrible treatment from this neighboring police jurisdiction just, south of the airport, just outside of Atlanta. In other words, they didn't, the first question I got asked is, David Quinn, former detective Atlanta Police, was your son down here buying drugs? That's and the investigation tanked from there. So we as a community, we have to understand there are two Americas, even for the police. And I got horrible treatment. They never caught who it was. And I don't think they could catch the people if they actually turned themselves in. That's how horrible they were. I made the proper complaints. My voice was heard, but we're talking about, because I had a Black young man, 26 years old, my son, shot and almost killed. It really struck me hard that this is how regular people get treated when I'm not working a case sometime, or me and Vin aren't working a case. It's all about customer service. I got horrible customer service, and we want to do something with that in the future.
I was going to say, are we going to see this episode in some form on the show? That's question number one. And question number two, we all know what we are now witnessing. White supremacy is now alive and well again. It never went away, but they don't care about even hiding their faces anymore. They're out there. We know who they are. The new president, President Biden, has called them out as what they are. First time ever a president has done this in an inaugural address. So all of that being said, they're not going away. What can we do? Question number two, what can we do to protect ourselves from the white supremacists that we know are out there?
First question, this particular police jurisdiction will never catch who shot my son, so that'll never be on any kind of production. I mean, that's just what I got dealt. Number two, I mean, you've got a situation here. We as a community, and me and Vin, we feel strongly about this. We've got to do something about this gun violence in our community. Those white supremacists, they're going to keep burning crosses. They're going to keep flying these stars and bars, these Confederate flags. We've got to do a global healing within our communities, because gun violence, is a national health hazard for Black and brown people.
Yes,
we've got to fix our own neighborhoods, and we can do this. And we got to use the police department. We got to hold their feet to the fire to help us figure this thing out. There's a way to cut back on gun violence. I should have had a funeral for my son. All the doctors told me, we don't know how he survived this or he's not paralyzed. But, by the grace of God, I'm a Christian. Yeah. I feel that gun violence, and I want to do something really powerful, hopefully with my partner, in some kind of outreach to address this gun violence in our communities all across the United States. So that will be an endeavor that we want to get a part of soon.
I want to just add something to that. On you mentioned white supremacy and this movement for nationalism and things like that. What scares me more are people who I don't know have those beliefs. And let me tell you something. I'm happy that President Trump was elected the first term, because what it did was it emboldened people, and they felt comfortable now coming out of the shadows. So now we could see it. And it's not like we didn't know that this existed. We all know that it was here, but we've seen it in greater numbers now because people felt comfortable because they had a president that shared, whether you believe, whether you agree with me or not, but that a president that, and I'm not saying you, whoever's listening agrees with me or not, there was a president who embodied those same beliefs, in my opinion. So
yes, I agree.
So it's not like this is new. It's not that we're just seeing this for the first time. What we're seeing is people who seemingly that we thought were not that way in the shadows now coming out to the light. And I'm happy for that, because we could see it now and it brings more attention to it. And you can't take that back. Once you crack the egg, you got to make it. It's going to be scrambled, flipped up, an omelet or something. You can't put it back in the shell. So when you display that behavior, and those friends of mine and associates that I thought were progressive thinkers, and when I see these crazy political, somewhat racist views come out, we can't go back to where we were anymore. I don't need to change, it's you. So I'm happy for that, to be quite honest with you, that we were able to see that.
Well, I agree. I mean, I've been saying the same thing, as painful as the past 4 years were, because they were painful and crazy and, just we could go on and on and on. We don't need to. But all of that being said, we do know who they are. We know where they live. We know that many of them are going to be convicted of federal crimes, many more than we have known about this past few weeks. All of that being said, though, is there any way that Black people or people of color need to sort of be aware in a way that we weren't aware anymore? Is there anything we can do to just kind of be aware that, okay, we know that it's there. How do I know when I see this? Other than the fact that they're just going to be out now. But see, they're all cowards and bullies. So now that their head has been cut off, they're not going away. Some of them will still be out there, but a lot of them they're going to have to retreat back into that hole. But we can't let them do that either, my opinion.
What we got to understand is you have to keep yourself aware. You have to live your life. You have to go jogging, do your power walking, go to the gym, but you got to be aware. We don't know what's going to happen here in America. We are on a wait and see platform right now. We're standing here waiting to see what happens next, because January 6th, it just changed the clock. Everything is different. But I will say, you know, I grew up in Wilmington, Delaware. I went to school with Joe Biden. When I was a small child, I saw Joe Biden come drop his sons off at school every day. It's getting ready to be different. I mean, you can just look at what's happening in America and some of these appointments, these cabinet choices. Joe is the real deal. So I think we ride with Uncle Joe, and we still keep our head on a swivel, because you know, we have to have our own global neighborhood watch for our people of Black and brown folks. We got to protect each other. We don't know what these yahoos are getting ready to do, but they're planning something. Yeah. Stay aware. Live your life. Stay aware. And last
Tanya, that awareness that I want to, you mentioned, I just want to add something to that. You know, one thing that if you really peel these layers of that onion back and look at what happened on January 6th, you had teachers, police officers, firefighters. There was a firefighter actually threw a fire extinguisher at a police officer's head, right? An Olympic gold medalist, people who seemingly we trust, people who are walking around us every day that were neighbors and friends, associates, right? That now felt that freedom to come out and display how they really feel. So when you want to talk about awareness, right? I say be hyper aware. Be hyper aware of the people who don't just take it for face value because of their profession or what you thought about them. Dig deep, look at their behavior, their words matter, their writings matter, their ideology matters. Pay attention to that and make a decision for yourself of who you want to be around. Because here's the thing, I'm safe when I'm not around danger. And if you're dangerous for me and I pull myself away from you, then I've just done something proactive to help myself. I have control of that. I don't need you for that. All I have to do is be more aware. So that's what I say. Just be more aware who you're around.
Good advice, guys. And for everybody else out there, I know the show premieres this next week. What are some of the episodes we're going to be seeing?
Hit it, Dave.
Well, episode 1, you know, for the season 3 premiere this Monday night on TV1 at 9/8 Central is explosive. It's an epic episode. This is a motion picture with all the trappings of Hollywood. I mean, the production value on this episode is incredible. It's about a father that loved his family. He is shot in the opening sequence, mortally wounded, probably medically dead, but is able to get into his vehicle after taking massive gunshot wounds and get his family to a place of safety, which happens to be a police department. And some of his family members inside the same vehicle were also shot and needed immediate medical attention. It's all about a father's love. It's about a mother whose son was killed and how she becomes part of our investigation. This is one of the most interesting cases you're going to see out of the 15 weeks of ATL Homicide 2021.
Wow. Okay. Well, we can't wait. We'll be sitting there again, as you said, with our pads and pencils and thinking about, okay, who done it? You know, David and Vince, thank you so much for all you do and for being who you are and just helping us to feel a little bit better about staying safe. So we'll be tuning in. Thanks so much for joining me today. And everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in to Hollywood Live. We got some great shows coming up. Don't forget, check out the new YouTube channel at AURN Online.